Personally, I think that sci-art collaborations are a brilliant way to cultivate curiosity and incite appetite for discovery and also encourage engagement. But let's hear it from the experts themselves as we trace the path of creative new age science engagement projects from ideation to execution with the creators of the projects themselves in this next segment. I would like to invite Arghya Manna, who is a cancer researcher turned comics artist from Kolkata. Arghya explores the historical perspectives of scientific development and social issues through the lenses of an artist and a researcher both, which bridges the gap between academic research and visual storytelling. We will today talk about the paradigm shift in infectious diseases, infectious disease research through comics. And with that, I welcome Arghya to our stage.
I am Arghya Manna and I'm a cartoonist. I am an independent cartoonist based from Howrah, a area near Calcutta. So I'll show you something what I have been doing since the last few months on science communications. Today, basically, I'll be talking about the history of airborne disease transmission and why this is important in the context of current pandemic. And I'll present a talk which is through comics, and I have just make a little bit change in my dialogue what I have submitted to the organization. I hope this is okay. So this work is a collaborative work with Professor Lydia Buriba from MIT. He is a PI of Fluid Dynamics and Disease Transmission Lab. And what she is trying to figure out since the last couple of years, how the disease transmits through contacts, through water droplets, and through air. Okay, so I have been collaborating with her and translating her research into comics so that it could be more communicable and easier to understand for in the public domain or common people. So the title is From Droplets to Cloud, and it explains itself like basically through the course of history, the airborne disease transmission research have went through several paradigm shifts. And the most important two paradigms are droplet paradigm and cloud. I'll explain you through the next few slides. Actually, our collaboration started with the questions. Okay, here. You all know that when the pandemic started, we all were in some confusions, like me and like you or everyone out there, like whether COVID can transmit through air or not. And of course, the public health policymakers like WHO and CDC, they in the earlier phase of pandemic, they told that okay, no, COVID cannot transmit through air. You have to focus on the fomites. Fomite is basically the droplets which can rest on the surface. So we have to clean our hand. We have every time and clean every surface around our living area. So these were the policies they issued, but still, the problem was many people in the first phase and also the second phase of pandemic, many people got killed. And that was the confusion, that was the knowledge gap. And of course, I was also confused. So from here, I started discussing with Lydia. And at that time, what she was doing, she was trying to figure out in the course of history where actually the WHO and the CDC and the other public health policymakers screwed up. Of course, they screwed up. Otherwise, their policies, if their policies were good and fruitful, then pandemic wouldn't be so severe. So from here, our collaboration started, and as I told you, in the first slide, like through the course of history, the airborne transmission research jumped from one paradigm to another paradigm. So here are the paradigms, and this is very important if you want to understand the severity of the current pandemic and the future pandemic. So we have to look into the history, the historical perspectives, and where is the problem actually, where is the gap in our understanding. So these are the paradigms, like you can see the miasma theory, and then it jumped to the germ theory, and then it jumped to the droplets paradigm, then it jumped to the droplets versus aerosol paradigm, and then now cloud. So in the next few slides, I will explain you each and every paradigm through the panels of comics which we are developing, and we have a plan to make it a book. So of course I cannot show you the every panels, but I hope you can understand through the comics how it could be easier to understand rather than reading the heavy loaded papers. And of course, and Lydia is a physicist and mathematicians. Her papers are full of equations. So I told her, okay, so these are quite scary, and you, of course, you cannot tell a common people that read my paper, and these are the outcomes. So I think we can use comics as a tool to make it more understandable. So here is the first paradigm, which is miasma theory. Till the mid 19th century, the common concept about disease transmission through air was disease spread through bad air. Okay, because this concept actually came from London. Till the mid 19th century, London was a very dirty place, and their sewage technology was not very good. Actually, bad. In fact, bad, very bad, and the bad smell, the people thought that the smell is reflecting the disease. So it's coming from the air. So here actually the conception of airborne disease started, but scientifically it was completely wrong. And it stayed in the West. The concept was very much staying until Louis Pasteur and Robert Koch discovered the germ theory. They discovered that, okay, no, there are some microorganisms which can spread disease, and they told that the microorganism can live in the water, so, and also on the surface, and from direct contact it can transmit from one person to another person. So in this way, disease can transmit from one person to another person. But the problem was in the tuberculosis transmissions. Like they are like current pandemic at that time. The health policy makers, of course, there was no WHO and the CDC organized kind of things, but different organizations took several measures. But TB or tuberculosis was not controlled. So there is a gap. Why TB was not getting under control? So a German physicist, German pathologist, his name is Karl Fluch. He's almost forgotten figure in history. He performed some beautiful experiment. Inside his laboratory, he placed agar plates in different height and distance, and he sneezed. And from the sneezing material, it from bacterial colony on different height and distance. And in this way, he proved that, okay, when people sneezing or coughing or unloading some material to the air, expiratory materials to air, it can transmit bacteria to a distant positions. So through air, the bacteria can transmit. But he in his paper never mentioned air or the aerosol. He mentioned only droplets. So there must be a watery droplets, through that disease can transmit. And his contemporary in USA was Charles Chapin. Okay, Charles Chapin was at the time very influential figure, and of course at that time the people mind was, okay, so miasma theory is wrong, so disease cannot transmit through air. So there is no meaning to bring back that concept. So people don't have to be very afraid. Clean your hand and clean the surface, and of course don't sneeze to someone's face, wear mask, don't cough at the public place. So in this way we can make any kind of pandemic under control. But again, Chapin was wrong, but it was not proved until Harvard professor, his name is William F. Wells, and his collaborator was Richard Riley. In the mid 30s, he, with the help of a Harvard student, made a air centrifuge and did some beautiful experiment. In 1934, he actually published a paper in which there was two beautiful graphs, and he proved that no, disease can transmit through air also. And he actually added another layer to the theory of Fluch, which is aerosols. So these are the curves, and this is William Wells. You can see, and these curves are very easy to understand. Like when you are sneezing and the unloading the expiratory droplets, the larger droplets will fall down easily too close to you, and the smaller droplets will travel to a larger distance. But the problem is the smaller droplets will evaporate quickly and create some droplet nuclei. So
Okay.
here you can see that in this picture you can see that the droplets are falling down and the larger droplets are creating fomites, for which actually we need to clean the surface, and the smaller droplets actually creating some droplet nuclei which can mix up with the air and create aerosols. So in this way disease can transmit. Here actually WHO and the CDC actually screwed up. They thought, okay, droplets are only two kind of things and they can only travel maximum up to 6 feet. And so for the current pandemic, they issued such guidelines based on the theory discovered in 1930s. So what Lydia Viruvia is doing at MIT using some cutting edge technology, she has proved that, okay, no, so this is not the case. The droplet is not a very simple thing like a larger droplet or the smaller droplet. It's basically puff. Some droplets engulfed in hot air, which can travel much distance, and also it can go upward, not the downward, like the droplets are falling. So here from this panel, you can see the puff can go to the ventilator. In the modern house, the ventilator at the upsides where we have air conditions, and can travel to much larger distance, which can create some airborne disease conditions. And there was the problem actually, which WHO and CDC couldn't acknowledge. And you can see from these panels, if we look into the droplets more closely to the high cutting edge microscopy and other kind of photographic technique, droplets are even not simply like large and small. They are basically balloons, which is a non-Newtonian fluid, and with the added of saliva, it can create something abstract kind of thing. And of course, with the time, they are not evaporating even, they can create a larger droplet with when the small droplets are adding with each other. So in this way, what I'm trying to say is, there is a very much possibility that in future or now the virus are traveling through the air, and here is the basic concept of the airborne transmission. Not the droplets are flowing through the air. It's basically a puff, a cloud which can travel engulfed in a hot air. And here are the original papers. I suggest you to read this if you are interested. And at the right corner, here is the comics we published together at Annals of Internal Medicines as a graphic paper. So this is the interface of Lydia Viruvia's lab, and actually currently we are doing a book project which titled Bridging the Knowledge Gap: Paradigm Shift in Infectious Disease, History of Infectious Disease Transmission through Comics. So this talk is the excerpt of the long-going project. And if you are interested to read more pandemic comics, I invite you to visit my blog, which is Drawing History of Science.